RX Television on rxmuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. And if you follow RX Muscle on Instagram, check the story now for an exclusive promo code available at speciesnutrition.com. Again, on the RX Muscle Instagram. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, competitions. Of course, this past weekend's exciting Tampa Pro and the Olympia in less than 5 weeks. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, every week we get about 4 or 5 questions about Stan Efferding and his vertical diet. Well, you just spoke to Stan about an hour ago.
Yeah, I know Stan for many years, and we go back. He took my guru course. I did his diet years ago, a little bit his off-season diet. And Stan's one of these guys that likes to really educate themselves on everything they're doing and really immerse himself in it. And he's launching a new business. He's got this this new diet he's promoting that's basically like more of a food diet. Trying to get your nutrients and micronutrients from all the food you're eating. And he's been implementing it with a lot of these strongmen that he's friends with, like Brian Shaw. He's got a food service that kind of caters to the diet that he recommends, and he launched that. So he's a real businessman, and so I like talking to him because I like learning from him. Actually, I like to hear all the ways he came up with all the ideas he had. He had tons of real estate he bought and sold back in the early 2000s. He did the same thing he built a telecommunications business. So he's just an interesting guy. Plus, he's got he's an awesome power lifter, and he's a great bodybuilder. He turned pro at the Masters Nationals years ago. So I just like to surround myself with people like him that are super successful and hear what they did. And I know the community really likes him. He's got a very popular YouTube channel now, so we got him on, and I think people will like the discussion. Aside from my microphone issues I was having, that it was a little buzzing, the interview was terrific. Luckily, Stan talked most of the time.
So again, keep an eye out for that live with Stan Efferding coming soon to rxmuscle.com. Let's go to the questions. The first 2 questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question, Dave, what are the process by which fats affect cholesterol levels positively, and which ones are most effective for these actions?
What we found over the years, and I always suspected this, is that fats really don't change. I shouldn't say that. Fats don't really make your cholesterol worse. Okay, so you could eat a ton of cholesterol in your diet, you're not going to have high cholesterol. But if you eat a ton of sugar, your body will it's like sugar is like almost like a catalyst for your body to start synthesizing more of its own. So what they found is that high sugar diets actually result in high LDL cholesterol, which is your bad cholesterol carriers. And that's just a cause and effect. Matter of fact, the American Heart Association came out recently and said that the consumption of saturated fats don't have any bearing on cholesterol levels, and that's a huge statement by them. For them to make that statement is validation that that's really a fact. I've been saying it for years anyway, though. I mean, I ate 24 whole eggs a day, when I was dieting or getting ready for my shows and for trying to put weight on in the off season, and my cholesterol was always low. So there is a genetic component to cholesterol, but fat consumption doesn't seem to alter it as much as what your carbohydrate consumption happens to be. Now, by taking good essential fatty acids, okay, like what I put into omega-lyzed fish oil, evening primrose oil, you could definitely influence positively your cholesterol profiles, lower LDLs, somewhat raise HDLs. HDL increasing by supplementation is a more controversial subject. We're not really sure if there's a cause and effect on that. Taking in monounsaturated fats like macadamia nut oil, extra virgin olive oil, if you can find any real extra virgin, will also lower LDL cholesterol. Likewise, fiber consumption will do that as well. But the bottom line is that the fat that you consume in your diet really doesn't seem to have a bearing anymore on the cholesterol that you're eating, except that if you eat good fats, you can lower your bad cholesterol. It doesn't seem like you really could raise it by eating the wrong fats, which is interesting.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. If T3 increases metabolism of all nutritional components, if you took it off season and ate more protein, couldn't this yield more muscle due to increased protein synthesis?
If you take off, I didn't catch what they said. If you take
so
off,
if you took it off season and you ate more protein, couldn't this yield more muscle due to increased protein synthesis?
not necessarily, because you know what the problem is that if your thyroid is not low to begin with and you take extra thyroid, you're going to speed yourself up too much, and what's going to happen is you're going to invariably eat up muscle tissue. Okay, you're going to metabolize it. Remember, if you're low in thyroid, okay, taking thyroid will definitely increase protein synthesis. If you're already at optimal levels and you increase your thyroid too much, then you become catabolic from it. Okay. Now, obviously, taking anabolic steroids and clenbuterol and GH can spare muscle to some degree, and that's why guys can diet real hard on high amounts of T3 and not lose muscle. But in the average person, that's just not the case. Now, taking thyroid in the off season is not necessarily a good idea because it's going to speed you up too much and it's going to make it hard to gain weight.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, our Instagram handle is official_RXMuscle. If you're following us on Instagram, check our story for an exclusive deal at speciesnutrition.com. Let's first go to Ashley Burns. The difference between GHRP6 and 2, and what and how do you choose one?
According to what I've read and anecdotally done by trying a couple of these different ones, I found that the GHRP6 seems to be the most potent with the least side effects. The only side effect of GHRP6 seems to be hunger, which if you're trying to eat more food and gain weight, it might be good. I have guys sometimes use the GHRP6 just for appetite increasing. I don't know how great it is in terms of GH release because I don't think anyone's really tested it. But from what I've read and conceptually on paper, GHRP6 is one of the stronger ones, better than 2.
Kyle Marinucci, how do you know when to cut out red meat? I'm currently a bit over 2 weeks out from a show and my leanest ever. Should I even cut it out totally or keep it in? Does it make a difference?
If you're in shape already, then there's no reason to cut it out. You probably look worse if you do. For some people, I cut red meat and I switch to more fish intake because fish seems to be a better insulin sensitizer, which means that you don't release as much insulin, which means you burn fat better. So when people have trouble with burning fat, I usually switch them to all fish at the end or egg whites, and that seems to work at getting them leaner much quicker. But if you look good already, don't change anything. I always tell people that. Don't mess with what looks great.
Big John Gaines, working out sciatica. I have it bad. My daily functional pain is about a 4, and I can get through all workouts and day-to-day life like that. However, some days, like today, it puts me out completely, and I can't do anything. It's at a 20 now. I've been seeing a doctor and hope we can fix it. I think it would be the same if I worked out or not. Thoughts?
It's impossible for me really to know. First of all, why are you having sciatic pain? Is it an injury? Is it a narrowing of the spaces, the foramen where the nerve terminals come out? I don't know. Sometimes working out makes it better because it stretches out that area. It opens up the space a little more. It gives those nerves a little more room to go, so they're not being prodded and pinched off. So the answer to your question is I don't know. But you got to go by feel. If you feel good and you feel like, hey, I'm going to go to the gym, it's going to help stretch me out a little bit, I'm going to feel better, that's fine. Don't go and try to set any records, especially if this is your first day back. Feel it out.
Mikey Diesel Dave, I just finished up a show on Saturday, and I'm going to start your clean-out protocol next week. I remember you saying you should still run your diuretics post-show for a certain amount of time, but what is the best time to stop them post-show, Clen and T3?
Well, clenbuterol and T3 should be tapered down over 2 weeks. Usually with clenbuterol, you go down to 20 micrograms twice a day for a week and then 20 micrograms per day for a week, and you go off. T3, you can go right down to 25 micrograms per day for a week, and then half of that, 12.5 micrograms per day for a week, and then go off. Those are easy to get off of. As far as, what was the other question? I'm trying to think what they were asking.
Should you still run diuretics?
Oh, diuretics, yeah. Sorry. I'm losing my mind. Only use the diuretics if you need them. Some people think, oh, Dave said use diuretics, so I just keep using them every day of the week after the show. And they're like ridiculously dehydrated and feel terrible. No, wait. If you gain 10, 15 pounds, then take a half a Diazide, before bed. for a couple days. But you don't necessarily need it necessarily. Wait till you start gaining, excessive amounts of weight, because if you just keep taking it, you're going to eventually have a big rebound off of it. But if you use it only when you get swollen and you get that extra water off your body, you won't rebound from that.
BT for life. Dave, your thoughts on using libido pills as a pump blood flow supplement, and then he throws in, I guess, for workouts as well.
Yeah, I've talked about this before. Before Viagra, before Cialis was around, they used yohimbine for like erection medications. It really didn't work very well because yohimbine can increase blood flow to the body. Opens up the blood vessels a little bit to a certain degree. When they discovered Viagra, which was the first erection medication, what they did was they discovered something that opens up, that causes vasodilation, that causes a pump effect, if you want, in the genitals exclusively. So Viagra increases blood flow to the genitals, which is what causes erections. It doesn't increase blood flow to the rest of the body like that. It doesn't have that same effect. So people take these Viagra before they go to the gym thinking they get about a pump. The only place you're getting a pump is in your pants, and that's not going to help you perform better in the gym or on a bodybuilding stage. So don't be silly, people. Stop the insanity, okay? You're just doing crazy stuff. If anything, you're more than likely to pass out on stage because a lot of times it lowers blood pressure. These anti-erection drugs were originally blood pressure meds that just happen to have as a side effect that you got an erection from it. So I wouldn't recommend taking it before you go out on stage. Once again, don't do crazy stuff before you go on stage. Trust me.
Christy Cookie, why do you think there is more drama and trash talk these days more than ever? Cough, cough. Sergio Oliva Jr., cough, cough. Seems like social media has, in their opinion, ruined the sport beyond repair, and guys tend to talk more than letting the results speak for themselves and staying humble. More guys are offended and trash talk and let it get to them more often than it should. So in general, your thoughts on, I guess, the recent increase in trash talk in bodybuilding social media?
Well, these athletes know that social media is important for marketability and for making money for themselves. And what's going to draw people to their page, other than the great pictures of these athletes? Trash talking. Think about how many views Sergio gets, or how many views Justin gets. Justin Rodriguez, when they post shit about each other. They're getting crazy amounts of interaction. People looking at what they're doing. I'm a poster on social media, but I'm not excessive about it. And I posted up a couple of my clients who did really good last weekend in their shows. And actually it was the weekend before that, I think. Well, some this weekend too. But I posted like all the winners that I worked with. And I got a lot of I got to tell you, I got a lot of people signed up with me for coaching after that. Because maybe they didn't know that I was still coaching people, or maybe they didn't realize the results I get with my clients. So when they saw all these people that did really, really well, people signed up with me. So it works. So I understand why guys go out there and sensationalize things and they trash each other, because they figure, well, who cares? It doesn't really bother me. And I'm going to get people responding to me, and eventually that could lead to more business for myself. And I think that's exactly what people are doing.
Morse Brown, your opinion of using Sermorelin for bodybuilding, how effective is it compared to HGH? I have a new prescription for this, along with testosterone.
Sermorelin is a GHRP, or growth hormone releasing peptide. It simulates growth hormone releasing hormone that's produced by the hypothalamus in the brain. And what it does is it stimulates the pituitary to directly release GH. The problem is that everyone responds differently to this stuff. To compare GH to Sermorelin, it would be like comparing HCG to testosterone, okay? Because you're trying to make your body naturally produce a certain amount. You can't naturally produce anywhere near what your body can take, what could be, I guess, injected in usable form. Meaning that if you take 3-4 IUs of GH, you couldn't possibly release that much GH, in a Sermorelin shot. So the comparison is not good. If you can afford to take the real stuff, you're going to get way better results.
Constantine Mallamma, were you influenced by Vince Duranda's legacy? Your methods sound like you think the way that Vince did.
Yeah, I like a lot of what he says. He was a big protein fat advocator for building muscle and for building that anabolic, effect in the body using nutrition. He was back in that 80s era, though, when they really were using more red meats and heavy creams. So they were going with protein and fats. The fat sources just were not necessarily ideal, but the concept was the same. And you know, a lot of the results they got were really good because of that. And people enjoyed being in a ketogenic diet. And so he really was ahead of his time back in the day. I mean, he was training-wise ahead of his time, diet-wise, supplementation-wise. And we all, you know, I always say, you know, I think Isaac Newton said, if I've seen Father, it's because I've stood on the shoulder of giants. Well, Vince Carando was one of the, you know, giants that, you know, guys like me and Chad and all these people stood on top of to see further. So he got us to this point, and then we went further. Now, I actually, you know, I don't know if my dieting techniques were directly related to reading about his stuff. It might have been more Di Pasquale and some of the other guys, but he certainly influenced me in some degree because I remember reading about his diets and his philosophies and Muscle Mag and stuff like that. So, absolutely, absolutely.
Marco Tunisi is ejaculating a way your testicles are forced to produce more testosterone.
No. When you have an orgasm and you ejaculate, you're just releasing sperm. Okay, the sperm that you've produced in the testicles that were stored in the epididymis of your testicles are now just released, you know, through the spermatic ducts into the, you know, out of the urethra. It has nothing to do with testosterone production whatsoever. You can have sperm production and no testosterone. It's unlikely, but you know, you got to remember, when you go on a cycle and you shut your testicles down essentially, okay, they're still producing a little bit, but not much. They're still producing a little sperm, but not much. Okay, so when you ejaculate, when you're shut down, it's all the prostate and vas deferens and all those little glands in there that are releasing fluid. Okay, but you know, when you go back on and when you go off, and your body turns itself back on, now you're producing endogenous stuff. Releasing sperm doesn't lower testosterone, despite what people think. You know, the old adage, I know Muhammad Ali never had sex 6 weeks before a fight because he thought it would weaken him. It's just not true.
Jay Ramirez, 58. Dave, how would you treat shoulder pain with severe arthritis?
How would I I'll tell you right now, I got it all the time. I just suffer. I don't take any pain meds. I had my left shoulder replaced. I took some pain meds for the first 4 days after surgery, but I'm saying I never needed pain. I never used pain meds while I had the shoulder pain and while I was walking around with it. Now my right one definitely needs replacement. It's been a year, and I'm ready to get this one done. But I still don't. At rest right now, I'm not in pain. Everything I do, moving-wise, hurts. But you know what? Once you get onto the pain med, you know, path, it's a brutal pathway, and it a lot of times leads to bad places. So if you could avoid it, I would suggest avoiding it. I take Arthrolyze 10 pills a day. You know, 5 twice a day, every day religiously, along with my V-Mineralize, which is my minerals, which are going to help repair the bone. And I just deal with it, and it seems to work okay. Once again, it's not getting better, but it's not really necessarily getting worse. It's just getting a little annoying at this point. So at some point, I will get this right shoulder replaced as well.
Noah the Fox, what is the best set/rep scheme you found to bring up your calves?
I've told people this story before. I was a big believer in you know, high reps and high sets, and my calves, no matter what I did, would never grow. And I was in actually Gold's Gym Venice. I remember Lou Ferrigno was on the machine next to me, and I got up and I was doing some calf raises, and I started really light. You know, I went with what a warm-up set, which was still a decent amount of weight. And I did the set, and I'm like, holy mackerel, my calves feel pumped, man. And you always get a better workout in Gold's Venice because of all the celebrities in there. And I'm like, this is weird. So I went and tried to do a couple more sets, and all I was feeling was the bottom of my feet hurting at this point. But I wasn't even feeling it in my calves anymore. I said, you know, I wonder how I would do if I just did like one set of standing, one set of seated calves, since they hit different heads of the calf muscle. And just left the gym. That's it. At the end of my workout, bang that out. It'll take no time at all. I'll give it 100% intensity. I have one set to really, really focus on. And I did it. And I would do it twice a week, every 3 days. And it worked great. My calves grew. So that isolation, that ability to get full range of motion, to have a nice, you know, rested calf before I'm doing my calf raises, it made a world of difference.
As to our BB20, what were the cycles of Arnold's era like? Drug types and doses. So I guess Arnold, that classic era. This question's been asked in different variations before, but we'll address it here.
Yeah. Look, I don't know what Arnold took. I never sat down and talked with him, so for me to speculate would be moronic, okay? What the guys did they liked Dianabol back in the day. They took Dianabol pills. They took Winstrol tabs. They used a lot of Deca and Primobolan. You know, Primobolan and probably Winstrol were really popular during contest prep. And there was no really aromatase inhibitors. They would use Nolvadex and stuff like that. So they were very simple cycles. They were not high in dosage. No one did 1,000 milligrams a test. They would do like 500. That would be a huge cycle. And it worked for them. So training and eating was impeccable on point. So maybe today's bodybuilders should take a page out of the playbook of these past champions. Maybe it's not all about the drugs. Maybe it's more about how you train and how you rest and how you allow your body to be intuitive.
Let's go to Tractus Vialis. Better for bulking? So it's kind of a two-part question here. What's better for bulking? 1 gram test, 500 test / 500 EQ. Second part, also, if someone can handle the trend sides and has healthy kidney, liver, BP values, would it be okay to use it for 10 weeks or a bit more?
I think 12 to 16 weeks would be fine, and I think that, I would go higher on the test, anywhere from up to 750 milligrams a week you can do with some sort of an anabolic, which may be a lower dosage than what you're recommending. I see a lot of cycles today by younger guys are trying to be centered on they think that if they use more anabolic and less testosterone, they'll have less side effects and they'll grow better. Not true. Testosterone is the #1 muscle building hormone in the body. So you want your base to be high in testosterone, whether it be 750 a week, 1,000 a week. Those are really your effective dosages. And combine that with an anabolic, whether it be 150, 200 milligrams of Trenbolone a week spread out, or Deca, or EQ even, or Masteron. You're going to get results. Remember, steroids build muscle, okay, and spare muscle loss. So it doesn't really matter what you're taking. You can get ready for a show taking an Anadrol a day. You can get ready for a show taking a 1 shot of test a week. If you diet hard and you take the right supplements, you're going to look good.
One tall man, Dave, I was thinking about taking caffeine pills for a pre-workout, but was wondering if 200 mg around 5 p.m. before I train would be too much. I don't want it to keep me up all night. The only thing I drink all day long is water, and I don't like coffee, so my caffeine sensitivity level could be different from coffee and soda drinkers. Your thoughts?
One more time, Sid, what does he want to take?
A 200 mg caffeine pills at around 5 p.m. before he trains.
As long as it's not going to keep you up all night. That's what I would fear. If you're pretty well adapted to caffeine, then it'll probably be all right. But if you're taking it at 6 o'clock at night and you're not getting home till like probably 8:30, you're gonna have trouble sleeping. That's a lot of caffeine to pump into your body, unless you're one of these people that has a very, very high tolerance to caffeine because you consume it all the time.
The Russian Prince 96, Dave, I'm considering doing my first test-only cycle and read a lot of different opinions on what it should be like. The majority of people say that less than 500 mg of test won't do anything, while some others, like Jordan Peters, for example, advocate lower doses such as 250 or 300 to start with. What do you suggest?
I'm a big believer in I think 1,000 milligrams of testosterone per week is the sweet spot. It builds the most muscle, has the least side effects. I think once you drop down from there, you're not as effective. If you take 250 a week, you're just basically replacing what your body naturally produces. So you shut your body down, you replace it. That's a waste. 500 is the first threshold that you're going to get good results from. Okay? 750 is better than 500. 1,000 is better than 750. And when you go over 1,000, you get diminishing returns. You get more side effects rather than muscle growth. So I always found 1,000 to be the sweet spot. If you want to just make it easy, you could take 250 milligrams every other day. And I think that's more than adequate. Interesting
one here. Actually, I'm going to save this one because the question that we ask about you during your competing career, we like to save those towards the end. Classic Nick. Is it okay to give blood while on AAs, for example, a low TRT dose of 200 mg?
You mean in terms of donating blood, you think he's talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I don't. A lot of guys give blood just to kind of get the thickness of their blood down. Because if you take some red blood cells out, you're watering down the blood a little bit. It won't be as likely that these blood cells will stick together and cause a clot. So I think it's a good idea to give blood if you're high. But if you're not super high, sometimes the benefit that you get performance-wise in the gym and doing cardio because you have better oxygen carrying capacity, is a better way to go.
Aesthetic with hands. I know you're a big mac nut oil fan, but what are your thoughts on butter? I used to spray olive oil until you educated me about its low smoke point and losing its nutritional value when cooked.
I think what I use grass-fed butter. That's the cows were fed grass rather than grain. Most of the fats in the butter now, or a lot of them, will be these good essential omega-3 fats, okay, with the DHA, EPA in them. And that's just good for you. So I think that's a better way to go. Mac oil, obviously, terrific way to go as well. You know, you don't want to have too many pro-inflammatory fats, which are yours, like corn oils and soybean oils and stuff like that. Those are just not good for you.
Tony Labib, coming down in prep, what do you think of a zero-calorie syrup flavoring Splenda, stevia, Walden Farms? Should they be cut out? I add them into my oats and my egg whites, and they make the meals that much better.
Yeah, you know, he named a million ingredients, so I don't know what he's using. I don't like the Walden Farm stuff. You know, some stevia-based, you know, sweeteners, even a little bit of the sucralose, like the Splenda, are okay. Even some aspartame, I don't have a problem with. You know, equal packets are fine. As long as you're not overdoing it. When you do anything excessively, you sabotage yourself. If you do it in moderation and you're doing a little bit here or there, that's fine.
Olympian Prime, let's clear the air about this so-called cyclical ketogenic diet, or CKD, where people eat enormous amounts of carbs once a week, 400 to 800 grams worth. Your thoughts?
That's what they call their cyclical keto diet. I think from my experience, okay, a ketogenic diet is super, I guess, effective. However, you can't eat for a whole day, okay, or 2 days. Dan Duchesne had this Body Opus diet that was basically a ketogenic diet, but you ate for like, you know, both days, Saturday, Sunday on the weekend, and it just sets you back too far. You can't recover from it. So all the good losses you got up to that point now are negated and reversed. You might not gain any weight in the long run, but you're not losing weight. So to me, I'm not a big advocate of that. I don't like these super high carb days every 5 days or 6 days. It just doesn't work.
Question on Isolized by Species Nutrition, J. Geem, or Geem. They've Isolized states 100% protein, but it's 27.5. Well, he says 27, the new version, which has been about a year now, 27.5 grams per serving of a 31-gram serving. I thought 100% will be 31 grams of 31 grams per serving. Could you explain?
Repeat the question, Sid. I'm not sure I'm grasping what he's asking.
So he said the Isolized states 100% protein, but it's 27 grams of a 31-gram serving. I thought 100%.
No, I got it. It's a 100% whey isolate, meaning that we only use whey isolate protein in there. Now, when you take whey isolate, okay, and you separate, okay, when you take, I should say, whey protein from milk, and you separate and you filter off the lactose and the crap that's out of there, you can only extract so much protein. We currently, given the extraction methods that are available, we use the highest quality whey isolate that you could possibly get. So there's no extraction process that is better, that can yield a higher amount of protein per serving than what we have. So 27.5 grams of protein, it's actually 27.8, but we have to round down. 27.8 grams of protein per 32-gram serving size is the highest yield whey isolate on the market, okay? So it's 100%, isolate. We don't have any other, like we don't put concentrate in there or anything like that. Now, we do have some isolate that's been further digested into what we call hydrolysates or hydrosylates. That's just digestion products of whey isolate. Now, we only put a little bit in there because if you put too much in there, it destroys the taste. And once again, I'm a huge believer of having a high-quality protein, but it's got to taste good, because if people don't like the taste of it, they're not going to buy your protein. And so I really pride myself, to be honest with you, if you assess the cost of what it costs to make Isolized, the flavoring system is so sophisticated and comes from like these certain flavor houses, it's almost like Nestle's. It's that expensive, the flavor system. That's more cost. That adds more to the cost than the actual protein itself. So my flavoring system is more expensive than the protein. That's how disgusting and how stupid I am. But it's also how brilliant I am, because we have a great tasting product, that's clean, essentially lactose-free. No isolate is lactose-free. If anyone says that on the container, they're lying. But it's so low in lactose that it's not going to affect you, even if you're lactose intolerant, because I am. And it just goes down, and it's enjoyable. People look forward to drinking the shakes, and that's what you want. If you have to say to yourself, "Oh no, I got a shake meal coming up. This is horrendous. Oh, I can't stand the taste of this," eventually you're just going to stop using the product. So we pride ourselves at Species at saying we have the best tasting, highest quality product. Yeah, we might be a little more expensive than the next guy, but you know what? Isn't it worth paying a buck or two extra to have the best? I think it is.
Last question from Matt 3.0. Dave, what does it actually feel physically to walk around really heavy and really lean/hard? I've heard Dorian say it was painful on the feet. Interested to know what it actually feels like to be in that condition.
It's a challenge. You know, when I was at my heaviest, I couldn't, every minute of the day, I would, suck down a shake or put down a meal and go to the gym and train. I felt like, yeah, I'm growing. But I could not wait to get home and go to sleep at night because it was so tiring to walk around at that body weight, that I remember Paul Dillette and I were talking once. As you see a lot of bodybuilders, they kind of hook their thumbs in their pant loops of their pants or their shorts because it's so heavy to hold your arm up all day. And to walk steps was brutal. Put your shoes on was brutal. And this was the off season. Now, when I would diet down and my weight would come down under 300 into the 280s, 270s, I would feel way, way better. I was still big, but it wasn't like I was huffing and puffing and wanting to go to sleep all the time. So it's not, look, think about what it is to be like a fat person, okay? I can't imagine what a fat person must feel like carrying around all that weight. Being an athlete, being athletic and having a lot of muscle and carrying that weight around has got to be better because it's more functional, but it's still damn heavy. I'll tell you, the day I knew that I was too heavy was when we would go to the beach in the 90s all the time on the weekends in the summer in New York. We'd go to Jones Beach. We'd bring these these aluminum chairs because they were light and you'd carry them. And we'd sit on the beach and I'd eat my food and we'd make fun of people and people around us would be making fun of us for being big juice heads and everything like that. And at least every other time I would go, I would lean back to see something or reach something, and all of a sudden the chair would just go right in half. The aluminum would actually just snap in half under the weight of my body. This happened from when I was about 280 up to over 300. Then I got into my car, and I've told this story before. I had a Pontiac Grand Prix with T-tops, and I got into the car, and once again, I think someone was beeping behind me, and I reached back and turned around, and all of a sudden I heard the seat go snap, and I actually snapped the seat of my car, a car seat, because I was 320 pounds. It's a lot of weight, and I was a functional 300. So when I leaned back, and my back, which was huge, muscularly contracted against that seat at my weight, it was like I was actually trying to break the seat in half, and that's exactly what I did. So I said, you know what, I think I better start dieting. And I had to buy a new car.
That is going to do for this episode of Ask Dave, brought to you, as always, by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. For Dave Palumbo and our producer, Tyler Shore, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.